Welcome to another episode of Just One More Fix. This is James. In this episode with me is Lacey and Carrie. You can find us online at justonemorefix.com or on Twitter at justonemorefix. If you like us, head over to iTunes or to Google Play and give us a rating and a comment. This is episode 6, and in this episode we're going to discuss girls and gaming. And now, it's time to get our gaming fix. All right, take 3 now because I can't seem to work the record button a third time. But a couple announcements. We are officially on Google Play, Stitcher, and RPGpodcast.com. It should be completed and approved by the time this episode drops. Still working on iTunes. It should be there hopefully next week. So here we're going to talk about girls in gaming today. And with me at the mics is Lacey and Carrie. So you guys haven't officially met Carrie yet, so we're going to kind of introduce Carrie. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie. This is all official, I guess. I'm 28 years old, and I currently am employed as a bar manager, but I did get a degree in education, so that might affect some of my gaming sense, or lack of.
Right on.
Any family at all?
Yep. Reproduced twice, currently married.
Excellent.
Currently.
Currently married with plans for the future.
So how long have you been gaming for?
I have been gaming for 12 years. I picked up gaming when I found the gaming stuff at my now husband's house.
The secret stash.
Yeah, it was a secret stash. He said he hid
Under
it
the
well than
mattress.
other things. But I had been interested in it in a long time. I'd played RPG video games. I enjoyed them a lot. And I had overheard a documentary talking about Masquerade, and I had written it down on a list of things I wanted to try. I still remember the day that you two actually walked into Lee's room and said you were going to go play a LARP. And you said it was Masquerade. And when you left,
cool.
I drilled Lee on how to get involved in that, because at that point, I'd only made a character for Dungeons & Dragons, and I now needed my other fix.
Well, right on. Well, in my opinion, you made the right decision because World of Darkness and Masquerade is superior to D&D. You can send your hate mail to me, but it's okay. So how old were you when you started, and what was your first game?
16, Dungeons & Dragons,
Right.
if we're talking tabletop.
Right, yeah. So it'd be 3rd edition then?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So what do you play mostly now? Or I guess what do you enjoy playing mostly now?
Any game that with a strong influence on inner character or character interaction. If I play D&D, it's going to have character interaction. If it doesn't already, I will make sure it does.
Okay. Right on.
Are you usually a player or a game master?
In my current gaming group, I prefer to be a player, but I do have another group where I'm usually the master.
The master.
Do you have a favorite game to play in?
A favorite game to plan. Dungeons & Dragons is my favorite game to plan, but it is not my favorite game to play.
Oh, right on. Why?
You mean to run?
Like how so?
It's the one I'm most familiar with.
Okay.
So if I'm going to run something or plan it, that's what I go with. I
Okay,
bring
I see.
in influences from other games, but that's the one that I'm most familiar with.
Very good.
So
I like a lot of the indie press games because they're not rules heavy,
right. Okay. Yeah. So you like games that aren't necessarily
which is
crunchy.
funny because the one I prefer to run is
Third
probably
edition
one
is
of the
very crunchy.
crunchiest.
Right. So what kind of settings and stuff do you prefer, or themes, genres, or whatever?
Ooh. To play, I like horror and taking probably current day. To run, high fantasy.
Right on.
I am no good at running horror as much as I want to, and as many times as I've tried, it just never works out. I end up running comedy.
So I'm going to ask James, because we did this with Kurt and
Oh,
James
God.
and myself. What would you say that Carrie brings to the gaming table? What's her unique contribution?
The desire to make me kill her character every game we play it.
It's true. It's because they're so
That's
awesome.
when you're both players.
Yeah, that's true.
Intimidated.
As a
Yeah.
GM, what
Well, no,
do you say?
so it's not something that's built into it, but there's been a lot of games we've played where there's been character conflict that's happened between me and Carrie, and it always comes to the point where one of us has to off the other one. And I think generally I'm faster to the trigger on it than you are.
That's because I'm more caring.
Well, I'm dead inside, so. But yeah, so there's I know you mentioned a strong sense of character interaction in it, but pushing the plot along, to voice Kurt's opinion, he always says that you're the plot catalyst if there isn't one there. That's what he always likes to say. But you push things along in a social way.
It's a certain amount of
create interpersonal conflict in the party, not necessarily in a bad way. It's because sometimes I feel like there's a bad connotation that goes with that. But especially in our gaming group, like we're all adults, so I feel like we have kind of like a more mature table, and we don't mind the interpersonal conflict. No one holds grudges. No one cares. It's a game. We have fun as long as we're all having fun. Whatever. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Lacey? What do you think?
I think Carrie brings a certain amount of boldness. A lot of people spend a lot of time thinking. They've invested stuff into this character. They don't want to, like make the wrong decision. And like Carrie is very much all about just making a decision.
It's because I'm going to push the button.
Yes. Yeah. She is always going to push the button. And that leads to interesting and exciting things that happen later on.
Gaming's my chance to be the person that I want to be.
Bold. Like Doritos.
Well, cool. Is there anything else that anybody should know about your gaming career? Any special insight?
It's going strong.
Only getting better with age.
Something I guess is true for all of us. We've all managed to continue gaming after children, which is a really cool thing because I know a lot of stories that I hear of people as they get older, they kind of fall away from gaming after they have kids. So it's something cool that we all do. Actually, everybody in our gaming group has children.
As a side note, I got extra XP at a LARP for delivering a baby one day. Not at the LARP. We did leave. But I did get some extra cred.
All right, Rhino, so we're just going to jump right into this then. We're going to talk about girls and gaming, and I'm kind of going to probably take a back seat in a lot of this, but I'm just going to kind of steer and moderate things. Yeah, I'm surprise.
Women belong behind the wheel.
I am all man. No, I'm a dude, whatever.
Buckle up, it's about to get crazy.
So we already kind of touched on a little bit about Carrie's gaming experience, and you guys, and we've already talked about Lacey's, but like, is there anything specifically that you guys could point to that like in your gaming experience that is different because you are a girl? Is that a relevant question?
I feel like it's probably a relevant question, but not really one that I can answer because I've never been anything but a female gamer, and any table I've been present at has had a female gamer at the table. So I don't really appreciate the difference of what a gaming table feels like without a girl. Although Carrie has GM'd some games where she is the only female gamer there, but not involved in the game in the same way. So do you appreciate a difference when all of your players are men as opposed to when you have female gamers present?
There is a difference, but when you're the GM, it's not as pronounced. Like I've gamed in other groups where I've been the only woman, and that plays a significant role. Like suddenly I have to be involved in a romantic plotline, which could just be because of me. I do like interpersonal connection. My game masters might just be onto the fact that I like that. But it does get mentioned. It is prominent that I'm a woman in a lot of the gaming groups I've been a part of, but not necessarily I'm running it because I'm just creating men and women for them to interact with. My sex, my gender has nothing to do with the characters that I'm creating for them to interact with.
Do you see a difference in how they approach gaming itself at all? Gaming style, I guess? Or does that seem to just more vary between person to person as opposed to male versus female?
My all-male gaming group interacts with me differently than they do with Lee when he's running a game. But I don't know if that's because I run the game differently than he does.
Or if that's because you're a female.
Yeah, they tend to wait their turn a lot when I'm running. They don't all come at me at the same time. But I don't know if that's because I have a command over the table or not.
Oh, dig it, Lee.
Oh, that was not intended to be
out of control burn. Ooh, no.
We can ask James the same question because you have done a lot of GMing at tables that were all male before I nudged my way into the group. Do you notice any differences with female gamers at the table as opposed to all male groups?
I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier, and I was trying to think about things that we would talk about and kind of make an outline. And I thought I've been gaming. Our table here at our house has been 50% female, or 40% female, depending on who shows up, for 12 years now. And I don't even really, I struggled almost to remember what would have been different because we've been doing it this way for so long. At the same time, back then, I was definitely not as mature of a gamer. There's just a lot more hack and slash and, Conan style, just, pillage the countryside and, kill the dragon, take the treasure or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I would like to think not, because I'm still a kid at heart, maybe. This is something that was kind of hard because I was trying to being introspective and hard to really put your finger on what would have been different, because you look back with kind of like rose-colored glasses. Not that there was anything that was like terribly bad or anything happening, but I just don't know that it would have been a significant difference.
Do you feel like there is less cross-gender gaming when there are females at the table? So your male folks that like to play female characters, is there less of that when there are female characters in the game already?
Well, maybe, but I think it depends on your ratio, because like at our table it's 50-50, so there's not a whole lot of cross-playing that happens. In our Monster Hearts game, Kurt is playing a Buffy style character that is a female, the Chosen, but that's the only game that we have had here at the house with any kind of cross-playing. Now, I will say...
No. Kaylin's Tremere in the
okay.
World of Darkness game.
And you've made male characters.
I have made male characters.
Right. Some of that, though, is because of the time period we're playing in, but I one thing I will say that I will kind of throw a shout out, it's come straight out of the Trail of Cthulhu book, which is a great game, but it says in there, if you can suspend your disbelief to believe in elder gods destroying the world, then you can suspend your disbelief to have a female university professor in 1920. It's not that hard of a leap, you know what I mean? Like, come on, let's be realistic. The other thing is a lot of people, like when we played a lot of Dark Ages, vampire and stuff, there are examples of females in roles that they wouldn't traditionally be in, and it's not hard in any
time
era.
Period has exceptional females, and when you're role playing exceptional characters.
Yeah, like if you want to play Larry the janitor, then that's not a fun game. Do you know what I mean? Always Larry, but like. Your characters are supposed to be exceptional. And they're supposed to be the heroes of the story and the larger than life characters. So I don't think it's a big deal to say, I'm going to play the Joan of Arc character or Queen Elizabeth character, or whatever your chosen genre or time period is.
All right, sounds good.
I feel like some of the gaming groups I've been a part of have tried to glaze over male and female as a whole, but then I also played in a game once where the GM specifically asked only the females to come to the game and ran a all-female game.
Was that drastically different in any way?
A little bit. Like, he did not glaze over the fact that women could have children. There were babies born in the game. It was a little different, but I don't know if it was because of the GM, but he brought in themes that I feel like some of the guys were not mature enough to want to play,
now,
or were not interested in because they weren't female.
Would you say that's because of their age and maturity, or because of just they were guys and don't want to talk about childbirth?
Probably a combination. There were a couple young guys. Most of them just probably didn't want to talk about it. It was not something they were interested in.
Okay.
Reproduction's not supposed to happen when you're at a gaming group.
Like Kurt always works that in. He's got the D30 that he keeps specifically.
But he also does some kind of dynasty style stuff too, where if you are like an important figure and you die, your children would be an important feature of the game going forward. Then
there was the game also involved a sisterhood, so there was a lot of like female bond, and you had to like keep that while still having competition. It was kind of cool.
Okay, right on. Something that just occurred to me is that, like, I don't know that I'm a paramedic. That's no secret. And we deal with all kinds of people. And like you're talking about, like, people not being comfortable with childbirth or whatever. Like, I've delivered a baby. You kind of get over it. Plus, I have 3 children. At a certain point, that's why I was thinking about this. I'm like, I'm not sure that I'm the right person for this discussion. Do you know what I mean? Like, because my view of things is just drastically different than what unless or are we all typically unique?
But don't don't you think though that the fact that you have a little more experience and a little less bias would make you more apt to realize and notice that bias when you see it?
No, I think so. But the thing is I haven't really been at a table where I have noticed a significant amount of bias necessarily. Now, at the same time, most of the tables that I've been at that had girls at it was with, other than here at the house, would be like a Gen Con or something where we did had a game. And I don't know, I've never had any problems, or when we were at a table together had any problems with anybody being like weird or inappropriate or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
My brother is a wildly inappropriate gamer. It's just one of his quirks, and it doesn't really offend people because they're already there, but I would be wary to bring him into a new gaming group.
But see, the thing is, like, when your brother games here, I would venture to say that because he's not that inappropriate over here. Not that
it's maybe when he's just around his guy friends.
Exactly. Which his comfort level.
Yeah. And I have brought I've made girlfriends game at his house before. I've made them make a character and made them try it out just because I wanted them to, and I've paid special attention to their character. And I guess he's toned it down then too. I guess most guys are aware.
Okay, so
there is something that I feel like I see gender bias more than like the sexual stuff, because I think to a certain extent, especially, you know, when you're not by yourself, you have other people you know with you, most people know what is appropriate and what is not appropriate, you know, with the exception of a small percentage of people that just have no clue. But there does seem to be a bias as far as violence goes. So,
do you mean like just violence in the game in general, like towards monsters, or violence towards women?
Violence in character. So, for example, if like there's two PC characters, you know what I mean? So maybe one of them is playing a rogue who steals something from them or whatever, and then the barbarian's going to turn around and try and chop off his hands. So if the rogue is played by a female character, they are a little more. No, they're a little more. Yeah, the male characters are a little more timid in lashing out that same level of violence towards the female person.
Okay, right on. So something that I thought about, like in experience, we've kind of touched on. We haven't touched on yet is romance. And it's one of the areas of gaming that I feel like is not touched on a whole lot. But if you think about the average person's life, a significant part of it is geared towards finding someone to spend their life with. Would you agree?
Yes.
So, in stereo.
We're on the level. It's the female gamer link.
So, in our games, it seems like there's a decent amount of that. More so. That's something I guess I would point to from back when I was younger. There was a little bit of it, but definitely not to the level that there is now. I don't think that's because of something that was intentionally done. I think it's something that changes when you have a stronger female presence at the table because of the interactions and inner character play that happens. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a romantic relationship between my character and Lacey's character. It could be, I think it even shows up more between individual characters and NPCs even too.
Yeah. And I feel like within your own gaming group and with people it is okay to very heavily blur those lines. But when you're with a group of people that you don't know as well and you're doing like one-shot gaming, unless that is something that is important to the actual game mechanic, like you have, like with Apocalypse World or the Monster Hearts hack for that, then the sex moves and things are heavily incorporated there. But if I'm sitting down with a group of strangers to play D&D, I am, my character is not there for romantic entanglement with your character.
I absolutely love romantic sublines in any game that I play in, and when I'm running a game, I have incorporated a romance for almost all of my characters in some way or another. Not necessarily a love interest for every one of them, but even like a power subplot line for everyone because it brings my characters into the game more. Like I know when I game with that all-male group, 2 of them are currently involved in a relationship with someone. One of them is breeding a line of heirs, and the other one is just making a territory with an accumulation of wealth and power because that's what he's into. But I like to take what I know my characters are into and give them a subplot line that involves romantic interest because then they're more interested.
But that is a romantic interest with an NPC.
Yes.
So
what I'm talking about is player on player
in
character romance action with people that you do not know. So I guess, I would not be okay with that, but is that something you would still, like we're sitting down to a one shot, it's 4 hours, we're going to storm the dungeon, and like my character's over here like,
there's a difference, though.
How's it going?
If you think about like an in-character romance, I think that's something just make however you want. When you lay out your plot or you lay out your story for the game that you're going to run, I don't feel like, unless you set up a game, unless the game is specifically set up for it, like Monster Hearts or Apocalypse World, where that's part of the system and the mechanic of it, I feel like it's something that develops over several games as opposed to in one game when you have just like a one-shot. Does that make sense?
I've had a romantic relationship in a one-shot game at last Gen Con.
But was it in Apocalypse World?
No, it was not. It
What
was
was it
in
in?
Inspectors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say I completely disagree.
And I did not feel that it was awkward, but I kind of, without expressly saying, I give you permission to have a romantic relationship with my character, I made my character into a traditional ditzy secretary role. We had a lot of strong female characters at the table already. it was something I wanted to play, and he had made a character that was supposed to be the strong, attractive dude. And I was like, is there some tension? And he said, yeah. So I kind of asked him if it was okay. But
so you like let him, not let him into it, but like let off with,
there was
say, hey, this is a thing that is okay with me.
Yes.
Okay.
There was like the opening of the relationship was when I tripped into his arms. Like that was like the most exciting thing that happened. Well, but it was there. The tension was there.
So you kind of turned Inspectors from a comedy game into like a little bit of a romantic comedy aspect of it.
There was the like, is there something going on with those two? Because it's kind of cut like a reality show. Yeah. Like all reality shows are going to have a little bit of that in them. But, I mean, the first time it happened to me was at a Gen Con, and I was not expecting it, and it was in Apocalypse World. First time playing Apocalypse World, and the person next to me was like, we're going to have sex. And I was like,
what?
Oh, all right. And then I walked away going, well, that was really awkward. I don't know him. But I feel like in hindsight, it was not. Like, it was one of the moves on the character sheet.
Right.
I just wasn't expecting
had you seen that there were sex moves on the character sheets in Apocalypse World?
I had seen it, but it hadn't come up
yet. Like you hadn't processed it.
And I was like, what is this? And I hadn't used my own. By the end of the game, I was more like, oh, okay. But at the very beginning, I was like...
What were you playing?
I was playing the... What's the big leader?
Oh, the Heart Holder?
I was the Heart Holder in that game. So everybody was actually trying to use their sex move on me. And it was an all-male table, including an all-male GM.
Right. I think we play a fair amount of Apocalypse World hacks here. Obviously, I think in all of them that I've seen, they all have some kind of sex move aspect to them. And I would say that we play Monster Hearts probably the most. Would you agree with that?
We did a fair amount of Spirit of 77 also.
Yeah. So we handle the sex scenes, or however you want to say it, the romantic interludes, as like in a WB kind of a way, so that like, when the two characters get together to hook up or whatever, like, it's described as they're making out and kissing passionately, and then it fades to black, and it's kind of understood. I don't know how to say. You're just trying to get your move off and get your.
It's a very one-sided.
Well, relationship. But no, you're trying to get your hooks or your whatever your. So I feel like in a way it's designed to do it, but it's also.
I don't think I've ever been in a game where like there's been some kind of gratuitous sex scene description, unless it was in some way, in some other way relevant to the plot line. Right. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, okay, well, we're in the dungeon and we take an aside, and now I'm going to describe everything in minute detail. Right. No, it's not like that. Now, when we did what was that, Lamentations of the Flame Princess game, that was a little more relevant because it was almost more like a Dionysus sort of ongoing, you can never get away sort of thing.
Which game are you talking about?
In that game.
With the king and the drinking, and we were all stuck in the castle, and then there was like a big orgy, and everybody woke up.
Was I running the game?
Yes.
Wow.
We were in a mansion.
Apparently, it was not as good for you as it was for us.
Oh, no, I remember.
Kurt but was extremely shocked.
But like I said,
that's the first game with a sex cult.
That wasn't.
Yeah, there was like a sex cult, but
that wasn't Lamentations of the Flame Princess. That was Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd edition.
Oh, my bad. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, because they were the.
But anyway, it was described in sufficient detail because it had further relevance to what was going on.
Well, just to make it clear that it wasn't just a regular sex scene. Right. This is
something
an orgiastic cult or something. Yeah, something's clear that. But even then, I don't feel like it was over the top enough to convey the idea that this is something significant to the plot and to pay attention, but not so far over the top to lewd, explicit. I don't know what the word would be.
Pornographic.
There you go. Pornographic even. There you go. Easy word. All right. So, I guess we kind of touched on a lot of that already. Are there any games out there that you guys feel like are targeted towards women to play, or specifically designed with female players or GMs in mind?
I'm sure that there are.
And I would love to hear about them. And I would love to play them.
The one that I've heard of is Cat, and that's I heard in Cat you play a cat, but your owner, I'm not sure, because I haven't actually played it, so I may be getting some of this wrong. I know fundamentally the gist of it is it's your cat, and your owner you live in a house and there's monsters that are going to attack your owner, and you as a cat, you can sense the mystical and all this kind of stuff, and you protect your owner from those things. And I was told that that's a good way to introduce your girlfriend to gaming. Now, I don't know if that's true
Binky
or not.
the space cat. Like the little children's comic books. There's the cat Binky, and there's like aliens invading, and he's always like protecting his owner. Sorry.
So, but Courage the Cowardly Dog, almost, I guess the refers to it.
There, yeah.
But I have never played it, and I think I have a PDF of it. I'm not sure, but I heard it was a good game to introduce, your girlfriend or whoever into gaming with it, because it's rules light. It's not crunchy. It's a very thin book. It's simple. It's a good intro to gaming, and I guess they thought the themes of it would be good for introducing a female that hadn't had any gaming experience to it.
Thematically, with no gaming experience, if that was your pitch to me, I would be like, no thanks. I can. Well, I've got other things to do.
To be fair, I've never played the game, so I don't really know.
It may be great, but like I don't know. The automatic association of cats with the female personality is a tad annoying. So
is there anything else that you guys can think of? Like Monster Hearts, I feel like is made with females and men. I don't think necessarily Apocalypse World is a little bit, but I think that Monster Hearts is definitely made with female gamers in mind.
I feel like there's been a lot more push for more female-friendly games, especially at the Indie Press gaming booth at Gen Con. Yeah. There's a feminist game that was being ran last time. There was a game where you played World War II female pilots.
That's Night Witches, yeah.
And then there was one other game, and I can't remember what it was, but it was very heavy on relationships and gender equality, and it was a role-playing game based off that.
Yeah, okay. I will say what I appreciate more is more female NPCs that have been added into books and incorporated in, and more
that are more than just
powerful female NPCs.
Right, more than just your classic tropes of damsel in distress or, wicked harlot or what,
even
evil stepmother.
Cover Heart, when there's a non-scantily clad woman, I know that women play an important role in that book.
Mm-hmm.
And
just for a woman to be on the cover at all, for some of them, is a feat in and of itself. But yeah, most definitely to be armored appropriately in an "I'm going to kill things" fashion, is a big step forward.
Right.
But I feel like it's not necessarily the game that needs to be designed to bring in women. It's the GM. The GM needs to do something to bring a woman into the game that's different from what he does with the guys.
So do you think? Because I agree that they set the tone, because they're running the game. But what would you say that the GM would need to do different with a game to draw women in?
I think just like the books, female NPCs that are more than just your stereotypical tropes.
Like tropes, yeah.
If you are writing powerful NPCs, go ahead and make that character, and then go ahead and make them female. Instead of writing Charles on the top of the character sheet,
Charlene.
Write Charlene. Female villains too.
I like a good female villain.
Female villains are good if they're done well.
Mm-hmm.
The overarching villain in the long game that I ran for my all-male gaming group was a female, and it was very important to the story that she was a female because she sent her children after them on several occasions, and even made a child with one of the characters.
So, all right, I guess at conventions, I noticed they always all this stuff. This year at Gen Con, there were 61,000 attendees, I believe is what they said, and 200 and some turnstile attendees, the people that went in and out of the doors, basically. So we've been going to Gen Con for several years now. Have you guys noticed a difference in the amount of female gamers that attend Gen Con since the first Gen Con to this most recent one last year?
I notice more female RPGers. I'm not going to say for sure that there's more females in attendance than there was in the last couple years that I went, but there's more females that are coming to, actually RPG at the tabletop games as opposed to just there for anime and art purposes.
Right. Well, I know this year at Indie Press booth, we played a game called Itris B that was ran by a woman, and it was my favorite experience that we had the entire time at Gen Con. It was a great game.
That's probably the bigger deal for me is this year is the first year I saw, and there may have been just times we didn't see them last year, but female GMs at the table.
I had my first female GM this year.
Man, that Itris B game was so good.
So I don't know what the difference is there, just that there's been females in the gaming arena a little longer now, so we're starting to bust into the GM circle too,
so
or what?
Do you, playing in games then when, like you talked about at Gen Con having a female GM, do you notice differences when, not just from GM to GM, because everybody runs their games a little differently, but do you guys notice anything different when a female runs a game versus when a male runs a game? Did I already ask this?
No.
Okay.
No, we talked about females gaming,
right,
but not female GMs. I've only had, I think, the one female GM. I guess it didn't have to be at Gen Con either. I mean, you can pull from what we notice here, like what do you see that's different between your female GMs and your male GMs? So I would say just a more player interaction focus. So there's more focus on player and player contact and conversation is what I notice.
I 100% agree with that.
Any thoughts, James?
No, I kind of agree. I mean, it seems to be the running theme that, at least in seems like in some of the games we play here, that when you guys, Lacey and Karen,
girls,
when you guys run, I guess combat isn't always the first option to solve a problem, to get out of a situation. Usually, but I feel like we run a lot of investigative games where mortality is very high anyway, and usually combat isn't always the first, because it's you're so likely to die. The systems we play are very unforgiving in that way. So I don't know.
I guess we've kind of touched on it in outside conversation before, but when you're talking about interacting, there's definitely more games that are set up now for interaction style gaming. And do you think that's as a result of more females at the gaming table, or do you think that's just evolved naturally over time?
I don't know. I think it might be a little bit of both, because there's definitely been a significant increase in girls gaming. It's almost 50-50 now, it seems like. I don't know if it's because of females in the gaming space, or if it's because just the evolution of games, in that, and maybe everybody's just tired of chopping things heads off. I mean, as this first solution. Now, when 3rd edition came out, there's always been a small social mechanic, diplomacy, bluff, all this kind of stuff. But it's a very small piece of the game. Fate is the first one that I can have thought of, or the sort of Song of Ice and Fire game, where there's actually a social combat system with hit points and, that kind of stuff, where it's more than just I make one roll, I either succeed or I fail.
Well, I'd be like 100% certain that the social combat aspect of Song and Ice and Fire has more to do with the way those books play out.
Yeah, that's because of
them being written for any specific audience.
Right. The only thing that makes me wonder is that most games that are designed by men, by guys. So that's why I don't know if it's because of sort of like a chicken or the egg thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can look at video games now too. There's almost always romance. There's almost always an option to play a female now, and that area of gaming will affect tabletop gaming. 5th edition, you now pick your ideologies. You now pick what you're fighting for. You now pick your dirty secret. You do those things, and then you have to bring them into game. And I think there's a good chance that it has a lot to do with women being brought into the gaming.
Well, I think there's a couple different things too, though, because also the game companies are in it to make money, and if you can expand your audience by 50%, there's a lot more books you'll sell. I mean, if they're smart, you don't market to one half of the sex, you market to all of them. It's just simple
money making.
Yeah, money making. Yeah, but as far as like social combat and that kind of stuff, I'm not sure if. I don't know that it even matters really why it came out of it, whether it was because of an increased number of female gamers or if it's just because mechanics evolved that way. I also think that it's just, especially with a lot of the indie games, there's just a stronger desire to play more interpersonal games. Fiasco, being a good example of it. There's no combat or no mechanics for fighting anything. That's all role play, storytelling at the table. Is there anything that you guys are the things that you like to see in games or gaming at the table, like in a game design, just anything in general being
I've already mentioned most of mine, but strong female characters spread across the board, not just secretaries and teachers and that sort of thing. Nice. I want to see female scientists. I want to see female engineers. I want to see female warriors. And I want to see them, dressed in a appropriate fashion for what they're actually intending to do. Now, if their entire purpose is to, seduce said warrior into doing things he shouldn't, then by all means, show us the cleavage. But otherwise, we need proper memory support when fighting. It's just common sense.
Carrie?
I forgot the question. I got distracted with memory support and cleavage. I apologize.
Right. So is there anything that you like, anything in game design or just gaming in general that you would like to see specifically around female tropes and just gaming in general?
I'm pretty laid back as a gamer, and I don't feel like there is. I like the strong female character as much as I like the stereotype, and I like games that involve both, and I'm okay with it.
Well, I think they both serve their purpose.
But I also really like Lacey's reasoning for not liking the stereotype.
I'm not saying you can't ever have a female secretary. I'm just saying I need to see both. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I need equal representation. And if you want to have a ditzy male secretary, I'm okay with that. And if you want to have a woman with terrible cleavage on your piece of art, that's great. But I want to see the dude's nipples too. So it has to be both. If that's the style you want, that's cool. But I want to see abdominal muscles and pecs on the guy. And if they're covered appropriately in armor, then I expect my female characters to be covered appropriately also. It's really all I'm getting at here. Equality.
So do you guys want to talk about any specific pet peeves that you have?
There is one really big pet peeve.
Tell us about it.
You're only at the gaming table because your boyfriend, husband, significant other is a gamer.
I hate that.
Yes. And I think we all do. And while I think it's fair to say that probably both of us got into gaming because of a boy, okay?
I found it with that one.
Right. But you happen to stumble across him in his books and that's but males were pretty much the only people doing it at the beginning, and those were the people that had the goods that we needed. But let's be honest, if we all divorced, separated, kicked our male friends to the curb, we would still get together and be gamers without them. So don't assume that I'm just here to sit next to some guy. I am here to game, and I will kill you.
Well, that's the thing. I think that it doesn't matter. I agree. You say that a lot of people get into gaming because of someone they're seeing or dating, but getting into gaming is just a social experience. It's the reason you get into it is because of the people you spend time with.
Well, it makes sense anyway, because you're naturally going to seek out a partner who enjoys some of the same things that you enjoy. So wouldn't it make sense that gamers got together and dated other gamers and married other gamers?
I've tried to introduce most of my friends to it. Sometimes it flops, sometimes it doesn't. But most of my close friends have at least tried it now at this point. Whether or not it's stuck, that's not my fault. Right. But
any other pet peeves other than that, I guess, major one?
I don't really have any. I don't know. Not that I can think of right now.
Okay, cool.
I think just the non-gamer assumption is the biggest one.
All right, well, I guess that wraps this one up. If you guys have any of your experiences or know of any games that are specifically targeted towards women as their demographic, or just have any comments in general about girls and gaming, feel free to leave a comment below the episode here.
Or any other questions that we didn't address, because I'm sure I have more answers.
Yeah.
I might have them all.
I'm sure I do.
If not, I'll make a character that has all those answers.
All right, well, I think that'll wrap this up. I guess we will see you guys next week.
Woo! You will hear our lovely voices next week anyway.
That's a terrible wrap-up right there.
Yes, it is.
Did you come here just because it was girls in gaming?
No. Well, I came here because I live here. If you want my real opinion, I mean,
maybe I wasn't talking to you.
I guess to wrap it up, girls rule, and you'll hear more of our awesome girly gaming thoughts next week.
Right on?
Right on.
Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Just One More Fix. Music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. You can find us at justonemorefix.com and follow us on Twitter at JustOneMoreFix.